All right, today we're going to journey into the mind of one of Japan's most profound and, honestly, most influential thinkers, the Zen master Dogen. This is a story about radical doubt, deep, deep practice, and some absolutely timeless poetry. So let's start here with this poem. On the surface, it looks incredibly simple, right? It's just a list of seasons. But believe me, its simple beauty holds the key to a whole new way of seeing the world. And the story of the guy who wrote it? Well, that's even more fascinating. You heard that right. When the novelist Kawabata Yasunari accepted the first ever Nobel Prize in Literature for Japan, he kicked off his speech with that exact poem. So who was this monk whose vision of the seasons could capture the very essence of Japan for a global audience, hundreds of years later? Our story doesn't begin with some enlightened master sitting on a mountaintop. No, it starts with a young, orphaned aristocrat who was facing a pretty deep crisis of faith. You know, Dogen's life was really shaped by loss, right from the very beginning. The stories say that watching the incense smoke just vanish at his mother's funeral gave him this profound insight into how fleeting everything is. And that experience, that obsession with impermanence, is what set him on this relentless spiritual path when he was just 13 years old. So he goes to Mount Hiei, which was the center of Japanese Buddhism at the time, and he's taught this idea called Hongaku, or original enlightenment. The basic idea is that every single one of us, every being, already has a perfect enlightened nature from the moment we're born. It sounds really comforting, doesn't it? But for a kid like Dogen, it created this massive, unbearable paradox. And there it is. That's the question that just ignited Dogen's entire life's journey. If we're already perfect, then why all the hard work? Why did all the Buddhas in the past have to struggle and strive for something they already had? It was this contradiction he just couldn't stomach, and nobody in Japan could give him an answer that made any sense. So what do you do when you hit a wall like that? Well, if you're Dogen, you do what any great seeker does. You go straight to the source. He got on a boat and took a really dangerous journey to Song Dynasty China, the homeland of Zen. But you know, for years, he was actually really disappointed. He found the Chinese monasteries were just as lazy and corrupt as the ones he'd left behind. He kept searching, though, until he finally met Master Rukjing, a teacher who was famous for his absolute, no-nonsense discipline. And under Rukjing, Dogen had this huge breakthrough, an awakening he called the casting off of body and mind, which finally put his great doubt to rest. He came back to Japan not just with an answer, but as a true Zen master. So what Dogen brought back from China wasn't just some personal answer for himself. No, it was a radical, totally stripped-down way of practicing that would change Japanese Buddhism forever. This right here, this is the absolute heart of his teaching. His answer to that big question was that practice and enlightenment aren't two different things. See, you don't meditate in order to get enlightened later. The very act of sitting with your whole being is the expression of the enlightenment you already have. The practice isn't the path to the goal. The practice is the goal. And believe me, this was a total revolution. The main school at the time, Tendai, was all about complex rituals and ancient texts. The other big Zen school, Rinzai, was focused on these brain-twisting riddles called koans. Dogen just swept all of that off the table. His teaching, which became Soto Zen, was about one thing, shikantaza, or just sitting. No goals, no riddles, no fancy rituals, just pure, silent, moment-to-moment attention. Now, to protect this pure practice from all the politics and distractions of the capital city, Dogen eventually moved his community way out into the remote mountains, and there he founded Eihei-ji, the Temple of Eternal Peace. It's still one of the two head temples of Sōtō Zen today, a living monument to his vision of quiet, hardcore discipline. And here's where things get really interesting. This is a fascinating paradox, because Dogen, a master who famously told his monks not to get distracted by books and literature, also happened to become one of Japan's greatest philosophical writers. So in his masterwork, the Shōbōgenzō, he dives into some of the deepest questions you can imagine. Take his idea of uji. He literally mushed together the characters for being and time to create a new word, being time. For Dogen, a mountain doesn't exist in time. The mountain is time. The past, present, and future aren't some line we're moving along. For him, they are all completely present in every single moment. And you can feel this deep philosophy in his hauntingly beautiful poetry. I mean, look at this. The whole world, in all its fleeting, transient beauty, is captured in one single momentary image, the moonlight on a drop of water that's just about to fall. That, right there, is being time in action. All right, so Dogen's legacy is just huge, right? But it's also sparked this really fascinating modern debate among scholars. How should we really think about what he was trying to do? First, let's just try to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of his influence. That number you're looking at, 14,000, that's roughly how many Sōtō Zen temples there are in Japan today. The school he founded is now the biggest Buddhist denomination in the entire country. So yeah, his impact is undeniable. But as modern scholars, and by the way, some of the research from the University of Zurich really helped shape this explainer, as they dig deeper into his incredibly complex writings, a central tension starts to appear. So which was he? Was Dogen a philosopher in the way we think of it, engaging in this open-ended, critical exploration of reality? Or was he a Zen master, an authority figure whose only job was to pass down what he saw as the one and only correct teaching to his students? Put it this way, was he asking questions or was he providing answers? Well, the academic research suggests that Dogen saw himself firmly in the master camp. He pretty explicitly rejected open-ended debate. He claimed he was teaching from a place of insight that was equal to all the Buddhas. His goal wasn't to just theorize, it was to lead other people on the one path he believed was true. And that's really what Dogen's whole life and work leave us with, isn't it? It's this fundamental challenge that just echoes down through the centuries. It forces us to ask ourselves, is wisdom something we find by thinking and debating? Or is it something we can only ever truly know by living it, moment by moment, in the quiet performance of our own lives?